Before you pop off your fireworks, let's learn more about Connor Brown and Evgenii Dadonov. I had the chance to attend both of their introductory press conferences and ask them some questions. What can you expect from them on a nightly basis, and how will their experiences help both on and off the rink? We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast. Here at the Locked On Network, I'm your host, college hockey play announcer, Devils Wire Pucks Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. Happy 4th of July to my fellow Americans. I hope you guys are listening to this episode as you're getting ready to grill up some hot dogs, burgers, barbecue chicken, spend some time with family, friends, popping off some fireworks. In a way, I'm a part of your celebration. Thanks for having me at the cookout. But in all seriousness, the grind does not stop. I don't care that it's the holiday weekend. We still need to talk about the New Jersey Devils. What's on the agenda for today's episode? Well, like I said in the prior episode, I've been attending a lot of media availabilities, getting to know some of the new assets, including Connor Brown and Evgenii Dadonov. I had the chance to ask them some questions. So on today's episode, we're going to play some sound bites from their press conferences, and I will break it all down. Then in the third and final segment, we'll talk about a low-key move that the Devils made recently, and it involves the San Jose Sharks. The Devils traded away Shane Bowers in exchange for Thomas Bordeleau. I will talk about that to close out today's episode. Before we get into Connor Brown and Evgenii Dadonov's media availabilities, first, Nikolai Ehlers, no longer available. He's coming to the Metro, just not to the Devils. He signed a 6-year contract with the Carolina Hurricanes. He will be paid annually $8.5 million. I mentioned it in yesterday's episode that the Devils were rumored to be interested in Ehlers and that they were, quote unquote, poking around, but $8.5 million annually, yeah, the Devils would have had to shed some contracts in order for that to work, and we've been talking about it all the time during the course of the offseason. I do anticipate for Andre Palat to be dealt away, but keep in mind it is a holiday weekend, so we'll see what happens next week. But yeah, Ehlers not coming to the Devils, and I think he could have been a good ad for New Jersey because I mentioned Tyler Toffoli before, and I said how he kind of pushed the Devils' offense over the edge a few seasons ago. I think Ehlers could have done the same thing. But let's not focus on what we don't have. Let's focus on what we do have. I had the chance to attend both Brown and Dadonov's media availabilities, and here are my 3 takeaways for both players. Both of them provide depth. I think that was the main talking point coming into this offseason because the Devils were way too top-heavy throughout the regular season, and when Jack Hughes went down with his season-ending injury, you just knew right then and there the Devils were screwed because come playoff time, and you saw it to close out the regular season, sometimes offense was tough to come by. Devils still good defensively, but they got shut out one too many times for my liking. So getting Brown and Dadonov definitely adds some more depth. Another thing that I think is very vital is experience, because the last few seasons, the Devils have been bringing on veteran players that have been around the block before. Now, here's the thing. The Devils' core pieces, they're starting to gain way more experience themselves. Like Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt, they've been in the league for nearly 10 seasons, if you could believe it. Jack Hughes is gaining more experience. He has 5+ years in the league already. The only reason it seems shorter is because Jack always seems to be injured. No disrespect. Timo Meyer, he's been in the league for quite some time. They're starting to get more experience in the NHL, and they're getting closer to being veteran players as opposed to young up and coming players. I'm not saying they're going to hit their ceilings, but they're gaining that experience. But it's still good to add people who have been around the block before. Makes a huge difference in your locker room. And the third and final thing is that I think both Brown and Dadonov, they could be productive players in different ways. Brown will slide into the Eric Holla role and be sort of a Swiss Army knife and will be tasked to do a lot of things. Brown was asked during his press conference, what can Devils fans expect out of him on a nightly basis? Here's what he had to share.
For anyone that's not familiar with your style of game, what might that be?
I'm a two-way winger. Always have been relied upon heavily on the penalty kill. Positionally very sound, and I obviously like to create offense. But I think as I've gotten older in my career, I think I really have a defined role as far. I imagine that Sheldon will give me some D zone starts and things like that, penalty kill, and late in games, trying to close out games as well. Adding to that though is, offense is really important and making sure I'm contributing. But those things are the staple of my game, and making sure that's consistent because I find when you have a team like that defends really hard and is really sound positionally, it gives you a chance to win every night. You don't always have to have not every night you got your best stuff, and the puck could be bouncing, but a good sound positional team has a chance to win night in, night out. And I'm, growing up watching the Devils, they were a perfect example of that. Such a good defensive team, for such a long time. And, you see that with these young guys we have now. I think that's going to only evolve and make us only a tougher team to play against.
Like I said, he has Eric Holla's previous role. Remember, that's why Jack Hughes was a big Eric Holla fan, because Eric Holla was used in a lot of situations for the Devils. 5-on-5, special teams, power play, penalty kill, doing face-offs, working the corners, you name it. Eric Holla had to do a little bit of everything. Obviously, it would have been nice if he was capable of scoring this past season, but doesn't take away from the fact that Holla had a sizable role. And Brown mentioned that he could do a little bit of everything, and he's a two-way winger. He needs to provide offense consistently, whether it's creating offense for himself or others, because that's how Holla met his demise, because he went silent for a few months. Be utilized in the defensive zone, be a penalty killer. I think Brown could definitely do all those things and more for the Devils. He was also asked about taking the pressure off the shoulders of Nico Hischier, and that caught my attention a little bit, and I want you guys to listen to it.
Connor, you mentioned, you sort of described the way that you play. Again, something that Tom Fitzgerald talked about today was really those, that Sheldon can rely on you in a lot of those defensive zone draws, that kind of thing, that kind of area of the game. It's something that Nico Hischier has been heavily relied upon, but maybe too much in the sense that you want to free him up a bit. Do you feel like that having you come in can really help free up guys who maybe are dependent on a lot for that?
Well, I think so. I think, I mean, the more depth you have, the less responsibility weighs on each guy. I know that getting to Edmonton, I was able to take some big penalty killing minutes away from guys that were, playing too much minutes, or, you can really only focus on so many things in the game at once. I mean, you can't try to, so I think for sure. I mean, I can't imagine that. I imagine that Nico will be relied upon just as much defensively as how good as he is, and But like I said, I definitely think that my role definitely will clash well with a lot of this young skill.
Remember, Sheldon Keefe was quoted to say that he never gave Nico an easy shift. Nico was used in all sorts of circumstances for the Devils in order for them to stay afloat. It's one of the reasons why I felt as though Nico was robbed of being a finalist for the Selke, but digressing a little bit, getting back to Brown, being used in the defensive zone, being a two-way player, and maybe having to take a face-off here or there, especially in the defensive end, I think that's going to be very important because here's an example that really stuck out to me. Eric Haula was obviously struggling to produce offense, but what still made him useful was obviously he still played solid defense and he still took face-offs. But there was one game against the Stars in which he lost the face-off draw, and the Stars ended up getting the game-winning goal late. I don't know if it was in overtime or in regulation, but either way, the Devils lost the game. All Eric Haula had to do was win the face-off and get possession back for his team, but he failed to do that. I think Connor Brown is going to be a good player for the Devils, and I think he's somewhat underrated. Here's why. Because when you're on a team, he played for the Edmonton Oilers the past few seasons. Some of his teammates were Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. It's easy to get lost in the fold a little bit, and when he mentioned faceoffs, I look at the stats, and he didn't take that many faceoffs with the Oilers. He only won 16 faceoffs, and he had a faceoff win percentage of 36.4. But look at who was ahead of him. You had Leon Draisaitl taking the faceoffs, former Devil Adam Henrique, Connor McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Derek Ryan, you name it. There were a lot of other players ahead of him. So I think Brown will get a decent-sized role with the Devils. And Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, great players in their own respective ways, but I think it's safe to say they're not Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. So I think Brown will slide into a bigger role, and that's what I'm excited to see. I talked about Brown's experience, and here's the thing. He's played with a lot of great players throughout his career. So it wasn't just Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. He's played with Brady Tkachuk, Alex Ovechkin, Austin Matthews. I had the chance to ask him during his press conference, how does he take those lessons that he's learned from those players and apply it here in New Jersey? Here's what he had to say. Connor, you've been in the league for quite some time. Where do you see your leadership helping out the Devils, both in the locker room and on the ice?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they have some good leaders there right now. But I definitely have, lots of experience, especially, coming off a few, big playoff runs and going as deep as we did. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think that my experience will only help guys, especially as this group, it's a young team and it's getting better and better. So I think it would only help.
You've had the chance to play with so many all-time great players, including Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, Austin Matthews. What lessons were you able to learn from them, and how do you hope to apply it here in New Jersey?
Yeah, no, I definitely have had the opportunity to play with really good players. You learn a little bit from every guy, whether it's like a little skill here or a mindset thing here or an approach to the game in this way. And so each of those guys were really unique to one another. And, every guy's a little different, but I see our team has some stars. I mean, Jack Hughes, the way he skates, it's second to none in the league. So I'm excited to watch our stars evolve and be part of playing with some more great players. I'm excited for Brown. I think he's going to be a solid player for the Devils. 13 goals, 17 assists, 30 points, a plus-minus rating of +9, 26 takeaways, a 1.1 offensive point share rating, a 1.6 defensive point share rating, giving him a point share rating of 2.7, expected goals for rating 40.5. I think, by and large, he was an underrated player in the open market. I don't agree giving him a full-blown no trade clause, but
if that was the deal breaker, because Fitzgerald revealed that there were a lot of teams interested in his services, I guess you got to play hardball at times. But I think Brown will get a good role with the Devils. And he spoke highly of both Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. And fun fact for you, Connor Brown's dad coached both Jack and Quinn once upon a time when both Hughes brothers were playing in the GTHL in Canada. So very small world when it comes to hockey. But those are my main takeaways for Connor Brown, and that's what I learned about him as a player during his media availability. We'll talk about Evgenii Dadonov momentarily, but before we continue, let me tell you guys about Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. What was one of the most surprising things I noticed when I started tracking my spending with Monarch? Just how much I was spending on takeout. With Monarch's help, not only am I eating healthier, but my wallet feels a little healthier, which I think is more important. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Okay, let's talk about Evgenii Dadonov. He was also asked, what can Devils fans expect from him on a nightly basis? Here's what he had to share. Full disclosure, he had some technical difficulties during his Zoom media availability, so it might sound a little spotty, but take a listen.
I'm trying to be like all-around player. Like I try to help offensively and defensively, like especially like some nights are different. Like, sometimes like you really feel like go for offense. Sometimes it's not happening. So you have to like get best like on this side of the ice, like, some like that stuff, like just, like I think playing hard, like no cheating, is probably like most important thing.
Okay, he touched on scoring and defense. The thing about Dadonov, especially at his old age, he's not really the best when it comes to defensive abilities, but I think you can hide him in a sense. The Devils have a really good defense. I don't think that's going to be a deal breaker for New Jersey, but his scoring, that's what's going to be the most important. He scored 20 goals last year with the Stars. And like I said, the past couple episodes, both him and Brown were decent when it came to scoring 5-on-5. Tom Fitzgerald touched on it during his press conference. I think that's what they're looking for when it comes to depth scoring. There's no clear-cut answer, and I'm not the biggest fan that Fitzgerald is using his analytics team to help him out in that sense. I think you should just rely more on the eye test, but digressing a little bit. As long as Dadonov can score, that's what he's being paid to do. So from a production standpoint, I just want him to be a goal scorer. So I think that's going to be a big point of emphasis for Dadonov, and I get he's up there in age a little bit, but I'll tell you why that's not really a big deal on my end. But first, let's talk about his experience. He's been around the block for quite some time. He's not only played in the NHL, but he's played in the KHL as well. He played with the Florida Panthers, then went back to his homeland in Russia to play in the KHL, and I'd say he came back as a better player. He definitely grew a lot. I asked him about his experience and how it can help inside the locker room and on the rink, and I also talked about his time with the Stars because they always fell short to the eventual Western Conference champion Oilers, and what lessons is he going to take from those experiences and try to apply it here in New Jersey. Here's what he had to tell me. Like I said, he did have some problems with his connection, but here's what he had to inform me and the rest of the media. Take a listen. How do you see your experience helping this team both on the rink and in the locker room?
I mean, yeah, like, to be like experienced guy, but like that team already good. Like, like I just try to help that team, like, like be even better. Hopefully it's gonna work out. Yeah, like I'll be like, I'll try to be helpful like everywhere.
Awesome. And my next question, the past few seasons with the Stars, you guys were always very close, but fell short a little bit. What lessons do you take from those experiences, and how are you going to apply it here in New Jersey to try to help the Devils reach the next level of their development?
To go deep in the playoffs, like it's hard for like to do like for any team, and like like it's like just like putting puzzles together. So you have like have like all the pieces in front of you, and like sometimes like things are out of control. But like I think, yeah, like with our experience, we had like such a great team in Dallas last few years, and then just always a little bit, and then a little bit like it's not always like on ice. It's everything. It's off ice. It's preparation, like for like like getting like rest and you know like a lot of those stuff. And yeah, like I see like how that works, and then yeah, like I try to be like helpful on that side too, But like most I think most is like like be together as a team, and no matter what happens, and that's probably like most key for success in playoffs. And like like injury and those stuff is like always big part in the playoffs too.
I'm not sure if it was a language barrier, but based on his answers, it didn't seem like he had high expectations on himself, but maybe he's just trying to not put too much pressure because he understands that he's up there in age. Speaking of which, I saw a lot of people on social media saying that Dadonov's age is going to be an issue. Look, I understand, but at the end of the day, it's a low risk, high reward situation for the Devils because let's just say hypothetically he does produce 20 goals like he did last year. That's really good because the Devils, outside of their core pieces, struggled to score. They got shut out too many times. I think they were tied for second most shutouts in the NHL. Now, to Jacob Markstrom and Jake Allen's credit, they combined for 8 shutouts. Shout out to Nico Dawes. He also got a shutout. But the point I'm just trying to get is that sometimes the offense went silent way too many times for my liking. And I think it started with the goal scoring production outside of the main assets. So if Dadonov is able to score 20 goals, I think that's a blessing for New Jersey. Now let's just say Father Time catches up to him and he's not really all that productive. He starts to slow down. And guess what? He's only signed for 1 year. He's being paid $1 million plus bonus. That's not really a big loss for the Devils. All right, then he'll go to free agency next year. Devils don't retain him, and he possibly retires. Also, he could be used as a good mentor for some of the other Russian players on the Devils, like Arseny Gritsyuk. I'm not sure if the Devils are going to sign Mike Yegorov to his entry level contract halfway through the season. We'll see, but if Yegorov comes to New Jersey and the Devils decide to let him come to the Prudential Center just to watch, then there you go. You got Dadonov, who can be used as a mentor. That's where experience is so important. Going back to what I said in the first segment, Brown and Dadonov check these boxes: production, experience, and depth. They can provide those and more. So I do like the signings. Solid, but I think they do answer some of the Devils' problems. But I don't think Tom Fitzgerald is done making moves. We're just going to have to wait after the holiday weekend has concluded. Okay, to close out today's episode, Let's talk about a move that the Devils made. It was a low-key move. They traded away Shane Bowers in exchange for Thomas Bordeleau from the Sharks. Here's the scouting report on Bordeleau. Has impeccable bloodlines for a hockey player. His father and grandfather both played in the NHL. Owns outstanding playmaking skills and is a first-rate passer. Also possesses a good shot so he can keep defenses honest because they often do not know what he is about to do with the puck, pass or shoot. Is quick and a quality skater who uses his feet to dart in and out of traffic on the ice. Lacks optimum size, so he needs to add more bulk for the highest level, and lacks elite straight line speed. He's a talented playmaking center with upside. Basically a project. He stands 5'10", weighs 175 pounds, and I think there were some other prospects in the Sharks pipeline that took priority over him. He was drafted by the Sharks in the second round back in 2020. He played for the USA National Developmental Program. Obviously, there are a few other Devils players who have participated on that program, including both Hughes brothers and Ben Keevan, who was recently drafted by the Devils, committed to play at Arizona State University. But Bordeleau, I think this will be interesting for the Devils. Obviously, he's going to play with the Utica Comets. We talked about it in the Pucks and Pitchforks group chat. I think it's sort of an upgrade for the Devils. I think he still has some potential, similar to what I just told you guys. While in the AHL, he has 107 career points in 161 games played, 47 goals, 60 assists. He also does have some NHL experience. He has appeared in 44 career NHL games, has 6 goals, 12 assists for a grand total of 18 points. I think there's still some upside there. I think this was a pretty interesting move by the Devils. He also hails from Ann Arbor. Go Blue, the Michigan Wolverines. He was teammates with Luke Hughes and Ethan Edwards. You also had Seamus Casey, who played at Michigan as well, but he was not teammates with him. But it's nice to have the Wolverine pipeline alive and well in New Jersey. Let me know your thoughts on Brown and Dadonov. Do you think they are underrated players? Do you think they're going to exceed your expectations? Where do you see them best fitting in? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X Page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening. Once again, happy 4th of July.